welcome back. It is week 116 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff, and you know the party doesn't start until he walks in. It's my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
Jeff, I'm doing pretty good for a guy with a chocolate milk mustache on his upper lip. I got to tell you, just so everyone knows, it's a visual bit. If you're listening to it, then this is all lost on you. But I'm trying to prove a point to girlfriend of the pod. So I'm experimenting with a little mustache that looks like a dirty lip shadow. But support me in this endeavor. I need to win. I need to be
Well, I
right.
can promise you, I fully support you. We did a thing at
Thank you.
work a while back where we all shaved our beards and then just left the mustache. And I think I did one of our episodes with that, and I think there's a YouTube video. One of my singles videos or reaction videos early on, one of those has a video of me with just the mustache, and I thought it looked fantastic.
So did
Wife of the
I.
pod felt very differently about that whole situation.
Women be shopping. Women be shopping. I tell you what.
Yeah, it was someday I'll do it again, because my dad has a powerful mustache.
Your
Like,
dad
that
has
is,
a classic soup strainer.
yeah, like that's something to aspire to, so hopefully I can wield that one day, that I've become man enough to do so.
Well, you have a good one going. I look like John Waters or Gomez Adams. I have this nice little thin strip that again just looks like I rubbed my nose in someone's ass and forgot to wash my face. But girlfriend of the pod is like, you should see if you can grow a mustache. It would probably look really good. And I'm like, you are gonna so regret you said that. I'll show you.
Well, I mean, if at the end of the day all it does is prove your point, I think it's going to look great. I can't wait to see it at its full fruition.
Uh,
I don't know how long you thinking it's going to take to get to full, like, Ramathorn status.
oh, Ramathorn. One can only dream. I don't know, man. I might cave first because I have a tendency. This is so disgusting. I have a tendency to lick at the little mustache hairs at the corner.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. And I'll be talking to people and just unconsciously be like, not realize I'm doing it. Then they look at you like you have smoking turds hanging out of your mouth. And you're like, oh, right. I'm doing the weird gecko thing. I gotta stop. So if I can't stop doing that, it's gone.
Well, and I think I speak on behalf of everybody listening as well. I'm hoping that you get that baby rocking, because I think it's going to look fantastic, and I think you're underestimating the ability that a mustache has to increase your confidence through the roof, baby.
Oh, even if it looks like shit, I'll feel incredibly confident because it means I was right. And there's nothing puts a spring in a man's step like having someone tell you the words, you were right. I'm looking forward to that day.
What are we here to talk about this week, Alex?
Oh, well, wouldn't you know who won the pony? We're talking about our dear friend Kesha today on the podcast. And what's the album called? Gag Order?
Yes. So, very provocative title.
Mm.
And I think it's been a little while since she's released anything, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I was, we were kind of giving our little bit of spoilers to each other, like we do, about how we kind of felt about the album. It's a nice way to just understand how the conversation is going to get teed up, and I think we're going to have an interesting one on this episode, because I've always kind of liked Kesha. Like, I never really took it that seriously. I guess it was just kind of party music, but it was good pop party music, like, if that's all it was. So I kind of, this album was definitely not a lot of that, not a lot of what I think a lot of people are maybe used to if they aren't a huge, like, deep dive fan of Kesha. But this new album came out, it was getting a lot of buzz, kind of both ways. I think I do remember seeing people feeling certain ways about it and other people feeling a different way about it. But I was looking forward to talking about this one on the podcast. So, I guess in my, like, Kesha experience, I might have like 7 or 8 songs maybe that I know, whatever was just, like, popular and on the radio, or the ones that I'm really familiar with and have always seemed to enjoy. So I'm interested to hear about what your past experience might have been so far with Kesha.
Well, I can't name 8 separate Kesha songs, I can tell you that much. It's Don't Stop, Make It Plop. What is that even called?
I
TikTok?
think that one's called, yeah, TikTok.
Okay, TikTok, weird. Um TikTok, uh I literally can't
Timber.
name another one. Help me.
Timber.
Ah, yes.
The one with Mr. Worldwide. Like, how could you, I mean, I just changed your mind completely about Kesha with mentioning that song, didn't I? I can see it.
Which is so funny because I actually know that song pretty well. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Like, I know that song pretty well, and it
Yeah.
didn't even dawn on me. Uh-oh. Yeah, I have no reason not to like Kesha. Like you said, it is party music that
Mhm.
fulfills a function much like Nicki Minaj. But that also kind of makes this hard to critique because if that's all her music ever was, and then she's taking like a wildly personal
Mhm.
swing with this album, for me, there was a total disconnect there. And I have to preface this whole conversation with I understand that she's been through some shit, and this Dr. Luke guy, fuck him and anybody that
Mhm.
looks like him. So I understand that this was a project much like Starcrossed with Casey Musgraves or whatever the Haley Williams one was. This is just going to come across like I hate women and don't respect their feelings whenever we're in it. But some of these like really personal projects fall flat, and that doesn't make like the person bad or invalidate what they went through, but like in terms of executing it as an album, they kind of some of them fall
Mhm.
flat, and this one fell pretty flat for me, flatter than 4 o'clock, as a matter of fact.
So there were definitely parts of this album that fell flat for me, but there was enough that I liked on it that I in general have a pretty positive opinion of it. There's some stuff I could really just like kind of leave and not go back to, but there are a few like real highlights for me. Not just like, oh, those are better than the others. There were some songs on here that I legitimately liked, and I didn't do a deep dive into like what all happened with Dr. Luke, and I understand it was just a whole lot of just people shouldn't have to deal with that. Basically, it seemed like she was just held hostage in kind of a few different ways as far as like her career, her personally, her emotionally, and it just being locked in a situation like that. I can't imagine at all what that's like. So I can understand where an album comes out like this. And I actually like your comparison to Starcrossed because I think that was the same kind of thing where you're really expecting something. You're expecting like with Casey Musgrave, something akin to Golden Hour or the same trailer, different park, you know, that more kind of country, maybe a little bit into the real folk kind of songs. You expect that to stay in that same vein. And then she went like full kind of glam, and just like tried to go huge and kind of missed in a lot of ways on that album. And I think we talked about us both like not having a great opinion on it. I think we were both pretty kind of middling or worse about it. This one I think is a better version of that. Is a better version of that Haley Williams album. It's something that because there was enough on here that I liked. I really liked the melodies on a lot of it. I thought those were pretty well done because again, it's gonna sound like I'm really trying to talk trash, but like Kesha's not the strongest vocalist. Like her appeal is like the kind of charisma that she has that the people that go for that, it's the kind of thing that they like. And to me, I feel like there's enough of her that type of charisma in the songs that while the lyrics weren't, groundbreaking, you could understand the emotions and I could appreciate where they were coming from.
See, I didn't get emotions at all. I got
Mhm.
very like for something that was trying to say something very personal, it really kind of like did its best to keep everyone at an arm's length
Mhm.
because it was just this like weird mantra stuff, but still trying to be I don't know, it was like filtering lingua ignota through like a really generic pop filter
Mhm.
where a lot of lingua ignota stuff is just like chanting and like very somber and religious. And obviously I love lingua ignota. So it's like, well, where do you give her a pass for doing that kind of thing? And it's like, because it doesn't feel like a gimmick. And with
Mhm.
this Kesha album, it feels like a gimmick. Like she's really going to a deep, dark personal space. But then everything about it is just like there's no real invitation in. Like Eat the Acid is just
Mhm.
like lame and repetitive. And I know it feels like mean to say that kind of stuff. But again, we have to divorce like the artist as a person from the thing we're talking about. And I have nothing against Kesha the person and all the sympathy in the
Mhm.
world, but it's okay to say that there's a ceiling on your talent because you're talented and it's your talent, but there are certain limitations. And I think Kesha maxed out on this one for me.
And I can understand where you're coming from on that. I think I've just because I've enjoyed the other stuff she's done, I think I was going in here with a little rosier tint on my glasses than you had on yours. You know, I think you were going into it like fully objectively because you didn't really have a big background on. But I don't know if I could name 8 songs off the top of my head, but I probably over the course, I probably know if they got played for me, I'd know them. And I think because I've enjoyed Kesha in that way, I was kind of more probably just more open to wanting to enjoy this one rather than going in kind of as an objective judge about it. Um, because there were certainly parts like Eat the Acid, like that was kind of cheesy, but I kind of appreciated that it was cheesy. It's like, who writes a line like you said, don't ever eat the acid if you don't want to be changed like it changed me. And it's like, it's such a cliche kind of thing to say about doing acid is like, oh, it's going to change you. You know, that's I think kind of leaning into that so hard is what made it more appealing for me because I guess why try to write like Bob Dylan if you can't do it? Like she's basically trying to be as clever as she is in those like older pop songs, you know, with kind of how she's like doing these couplets and things like that that kind of rhyme and they're clever and they might have like a double entendre. Um, she's doing that with like kind of folk music, but I think just the whole package of it and kind of how the melodies and when she did some of those harmonies, like you know, she's not Pavarotti, you know, she's not like you're not going to hear that and be like, oh my god, I can't. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. But I think what she has, she uses pretty well. Um, you know, and I think this was she got it, I think, as open as she was willing to at this point, you know, or maybe as written about as much as she was capable of writing about it. You know, and I'm talking about like songwriting talent. Like how easily can she like transcribe those feelings that she's having? Or is this kind of as deep as it goes with connecting with that, and putting it on paper?
Well,
So yeah, go ahead.
sorry, that's what I'm saying about there being like a cap on talent, like a ceiling on your own personal talent. And like I said, I think it just she trying to go for that more introspective stuff and being like, okay, well, I have a clever take on this. And
Mhm.
again, reaching for, like you mentioned, Bob Dylan. I don't think she was like trying to do a Bob Dylan parody, obviously, but was kind of reaching for some kind of philosophical level that never got off the ground
Mhm.
because it was like super on the nose and not really like phrased in an interesting way. So again, this is another like the problem with the Haley Williams album was it was just like brutally masochistic. It was just like it had to have been unpleasant to make and it was
Mhm.
unpleasant to listen to. And again, all due respect to the person and what they go through, it's just we're talking about the item here, the thing,
Yeah.
the album. Starcrossed felt like it left a lot of the questions everybody had totally unanswered. It like pitched itself as like the divorce album, and then you have like that song she almost got canceled for, the like
Yeah.
Sakura Blossom song.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? The hell are you doing? So I hate to say stay in your lane or like
Mhm.
shut up and dribble or something like that. It's not my point at all. It's just maximize your positives. To bring it all full circle, we're talking about how it was Kesha is good pop, dance,
Mhm.
party music. That's what you excel at. How do you translate that to deeply personal lyrics? I mean, like the title of the album, Gag Order. Clearly, we're getting into this whole thing,
Mhm.
but we never really do. And whatever, you share as much as you want to, but I think it's therefore then kind of disingenuous to pitch it as like the deep, dark, truthful mirror. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah, and that's I think that's fair. I think it was promoted as a this is gonna be groundbreaking, and I think making this album was for her. I don't know, and maybe there's some real, like, honest to goodness, true diehard Kesha fans out there. I think they call themselves the Animals. If they're out there and they love this album, I'm sure there's plenty of people that are gonna be all over this, but I don't think this is the one that's gonna be looked at as, like her kind of magnum opus kind of album, which I think she thought it was set up to be. I hope that there's something better, in the future for her. It's I found there was, like I said, there's enough bright spots on this that, I enjoyed at least listening through it. It was also short. It was 38 minutes, so it wasn't like a slog of an album. She kind of moved through things. There were some like interludes, and we'll get into there was a couple weird things. I don't know if you looked up who was doing the interludes and like the speeches and stuff on the album, but there was all these like kind of just like maybe it was an intro to a song or its own track on the album, but some religious leaders like giving speeches or kind of talking about their thoughts and their what their kind of morals are, I suppose. um and just trying to explain things, and I know it was meant to be like, hey, here's my inspiration for like where this album came from, is like reading these guys, reading the works of these people, listening to what they have to say, and then trying to kind of put it through me as a prism, and I don't like the original subject matter. It's like, I don't, did you look up either of it, or have you heard of Oberon Zell or Ram Dass?
I've heard of both of them, but I know next to nothing about them.
So I think, and not to like say any one religion or version of it's better than another, but like the Oberon Zell guy was known as like the first like pagan in modern times in like the late 60s. He called himself a pagan and like kicked off, a religious movement. I don't know if you'd call it a cult, but he's definitely like kind of a thought leader in the school that he's in. And then Ram Dass is like a guy that brought in a lot of Eastern spirituality, I guess, from writing books and stuff like that. So he's the one that kind of brought it over here in the first place, and things like yoga. That's where he kind of like got that going. So she's got both of them on this album, kind of talking about their musings, thoughts, whatever. But it's clearly meant to be like a kind of showing where the inspiration for it all came from. And it's like, I guess explains a little about where she's kind of been, is she's probably had a lot of time to look into this stuff, and these two guys are obviously very charismatic if they got followings as large as they did. um but I just am a little concerned about where that's all stemming from.
Well, and you also don't get to hide behind that because if there was some kind of thematic tie in with these different clips from these different spiritualists, then that's one thing, right? Like conceptually, if
Hmm.
it's all tied together, all right. But just sticking that on there to make a point that you're not making with your music, that dog won't hunt. Not with
Hmm.
me. So again, I think it's anybody that says like this was the opus, this was like a powerful
Hmm.
coming out as like a new level of artist is fooling themselves. And I know that sounds mean,
Yeah.
but there was so much hype around this to then get into it. It was a slog for me, even at like 36 minutes. I was
Yeah.
just like, I had a profoundly disappointing experience with this. Going into it wanting to like it, like you see the hype and you're like,
Hmm.
in my mind, I had it built up that it would be like, again, translating that like party girl thing she has into now the party girl is gonna like send it over the top with a ballad. Like maybe she does have more
Yeah.
under the hood vocally and who knows? That's what I thought it was gonna be, was like
Hmm.
Kesha really steers into getting personal,
Yeah.
and part of that is showing you like what she can do when she busts it out. And it just instead to retreat into the like brooding Jared Leto as Morbius, like you don't want to change things like you change me,
Hmm.
drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. There's one song on here that I liked, and it was Fine Line.
Mhm.
I thought that had kind of like an interesting, creepy little groove to it. I like that. But then
Yep.
you get songs like The Drama and Only Love Can Save Us Now. And I think of the far superior Pretty Reckless song, Only Love Can Save Me Now.
Yes.
And boy, could those not be more different. It was just there were moments where I'm like, all right, I'll indulge you with this like somber retreat inward introspection type thing. I'll
Mhm.
indulge that. But then there were moments where it's like, well, now you're just farting around. This is what the fuck is this? And The Drama, definitely one of those.
Mhm. You didn't like the part about the house cats at the end?
I Jeff, to be honest with you, I've blocked it out like a traumatic memory.
It's
I yeah.
that end of that song is just so stupid that that was one of the ones that I highlighted. I was like, I enjoyed that. I was like, that was the most like the old Kesha, or at least like one of the parts where it was the most like the old Kesha that she ever got on this album.
I mean, I wish I could like this ironically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like something like that would bring me joy, like, "Ooh, the cat ending," that I would love it, but I just got way too caught up in, like, it's not hilariously bad, it represents a kind of effort that I think was
Mhm.
just, like, totally misplaced. If any of this came across as insulting Kesha the person, that wasn't the point, and again, my comments are limited to the album and the content of the album, and
Mhm.
this one was a serious disappointment to me. I wanted to like it. I went into it thinking I would, and just got smacked across my bare butt, and therefore I cannot, in good conscience, recommend this one. I'm gonna say skip it.
Dang. Okay. Well, I'm gonna give this one a stream it. That was kind of the feeling I got right at the end. I was like, from the first listen, and maybe I kind of pigeonholed it a little too fast for myself there, or maybe it would have gotten worse if I didn't. But I'm gonna say stream it on this one. If you do like Kesha and you've liked Kesha songs in the past, you might like it. So check it out. But I can understand, just given how you feel about it, I can understand exactly why you would say skip it. I feel like if you're not already a fan of Kesha, this is not going to be the one that does
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. It can happen to you because it happened to me.
it.
So yeah, I guess that's all I have for
Mhm.
gag order.
Mhm.
But Jeff, I gotta ask you,
Yes, sir.
what kind of stuff do you think people, if they were the betting type,
Mhm.
can find coming up on the program in the coming weeks and days?
Well, you're going to get these regular podcasts every Monday, and if you're watching us on YouTube, hi there. If you're not watching us on YouTube, get on there, and whoever you are, subscribe down below. Let us know what you want to hear. You're going to see reaction videos. You're going to see full podcast episodes in video form. You're going to see maybe a singles video once in a great while. It's a great white buffalo for the show at this point. We just have so much fun with the other stuff. But where are they going to find all that stuff, Alex?
Where they're going to find it in the same place that they're going to find spiritual enlightenment and total fulfillment. And that is at youtube.com/C// out on that line. Listen, we're not here to sell you anything that you don't want or don't need. And let me tell you, you need this. You need us. A lot of you are hanging by a thread. A lot of you are probably hot little potatoes because you're mad at my take on this album. I would actually have to debate you on that in the comments of this video, which you should be liking and sharing and subscribe to the channel and all of that.
Mhm.
And I really need to move my light back because I keep whacking it and start to get raw in that same space. Maybe it will turn into an infection and fester. You can find out. You can watch me grow a shitty mustache. There's a lot of bang for your buck in our YouTube channel, which of course is youtube.com/C// out on that line. It's not hard, people. Just do it today.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time.